the breaking point everyone thought was impossible has finally happened. The United States has sent something massive to open the strategic Strait of Hormuz. 2 guided missile destroyers, the USS Frank E, Petersen Jr. and the USS Michael Murphy, passed through Hormuz on April 11. But these ships are just the tip of the iceberg. Because right behind these massive naval assets come the underwater drones that the U.S. has deployed to the region. CENTCOM has officially announced the launch of a mine-clearing operation. However, this transit was far from quiet. As soon as the U.S. warships entered the strait, they were swiftly tracked by Iranian Revolutionary Guard naval units and faced open challenges, including, final warning, announcements over the radio. While the U.S. side continued its route, stating that it was complying with international law and ceasefire rules, it was alleged that an Iranian-directed drone was destroyed by U.S. forces at the peak of the tension. Meanwhile, the Tehran administration officially denied the transit and claimed the ships had turned back after receiving warnings. At the same time, it declared that it would respond much more harshly to military units in the strait moving forward. The timing of this encounter is even more noteworthy. After 21 hours of talks in Pakistan, the parties failed to reach a definitive agreement. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance accused Iran of making a huge mistake, signaling that something much bigger may be happening behind the scenes. In other words, Washington might be preparing to make its final move with warships and underwater drones to completely unlock Hormuz. However, beneath these massive ships lies a far more dangerous threat. Rogue naval mines, laid irregularly by Iran and now drifting with ocean currents, are silently waiting to trigger a massive catastrophe. Many of these mines have drifted miles away from their original positions, creating an unpredictable and deadly maze. Moored contact mines, magnetic and acoustic triggered mines, and drifting explosives have turned the strait into an invisible battlefield. In essence, Iran may have lost control over the very threat it created. Despite this, the successful navigation of 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers through these dangerous waters shows that there is still a glimmer of hope. These ships are not ordinary vessels. They are equipped with advanced Aegis combat systems capable of scanning vast distances and detecting threats in real time. Their mission goes beyond simple mine clearing. They are working to establish a safe transit corridor in Hormuz, one that will allow commercial shipping to resume under protection. In fact, the impact is already visible. 3 massive supertankers have successfully crossed the strait following the ceasefire process, signaling that the situation may slowly stabilize. But for full recovery, Hormuz must be completely cleared and secured for international logistics. The real work will be carried out by high-tech unmanned underwater vehicles, autonomous drones designed to detect and neutralize mines. So where is this heading? U.S. President Donald Trump has used sharp language, suggesting that America is ready to act unilaterally if necessary. He stated that the U.S. would open that strait even if we don't use it, highlighting a potential shift toward a more aggressive strategy. This includes a doctrine reportedly referred to as the Out-Blockade. If Iran refuses to fully secure the strait, the U.S. Navy could establish control over all entry and exit points, effectively deciding which ships can pass. This would transform Hormuz from a contested zone into a controlled corridor under U.S. authority. This situation is no longer just a U.S.-Iran issue. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. Any disruption here can trigger a global energy crisis, affecting economies from Europe to Asia. Currently, the U.S. Fifth Fleet is on high alert in the region. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group adds massive firepower, with fighter jets ready to establish air dominance over the strait. At sea, destroyers and cruisers could form a defensive barrier, while underwater drones quietly build a safe passage by clearing mines. If successful, tanker traffic could recover significantly. But if tensions escalate, the blockade phase could begin, turning Hormuz into a heavily controlled military zone. Additional naval forces, surveillance aircraft, and possibly international allies could join the operation. This would create a full-scale maritime security network. Iran possesses thousands of drones and anti-ship missiles capable of striking U.S. vessels in the narrow waters of the Gulf. The strait's narrow width makes it a highly dangerous environment for large warships. Any direct hit on a U.S. vessel could escalate the conflict into a global crisis. At the same time, the economic consequences are already being felt. Oil prices are rising, insurance costs are skyrocketing, and shipping companies are avoiding the route. Asia is particularly vulnerable, as countries like China, Japan, South Korea, and India rely heavily on oil passing through Hormuz. Alternative routes such as the Suez Canal or the Cape of Good Hope are available, but they are costly and time-consuming. This crisis is not just about oil. It impacts natural gas, food production, manufacturing, and global inflation. Ironically, Iran itself is also suffering. Its own oil exports depend on the same route, meaning its strategy is damaging its own own economy. Meanwhile, another player is quietly benefiting, Russia. With rising oil prices and global instability, Russia is gaining financial and strategic advantages. The situation may even boost alternative trade routes like the Northern Sea route, strengthening Moscow's position. In the bigger picture, this crisis is reshaping global energy security and geopolitical dynamics. What started as a regional conflict is now influencing the entire world economy. The question remains, will the Strait of Hormuz be safely reopened, or will it become the trigger for a much larger global crisis?